thank you all for coming so much. We know this is strange times, but it's still nice to be able to meet with people who love books, who love yoga, who want to learn more about it. For those who don't know, Belmont Books is located in Belmont, Mass. I know we have some out-of-towners with us, which is always nice. Just a brief update on events. Tomorrow we are doing one with Jessica Treadway and Julia Glass at 7. I think it's registration as well, and that's on Crowdcast. Usually we have people and participants turn their cameras off, but we are encouraging you to keep them on. Both Holly and Liz would love to see your faces and connect with you and make it feel more like a book event rather than just a sea of faceless squares on the screen. We also encourage you to use speaker view in Zoom. If you go up to the top right, you'll see a grid of squares where it says gallery view and speaker view. Speaker view just enables the current speaker to be front and center on your screen so you don't miss anything. Currently, chat will be turned off while the speakers are talking. You are welcome, though, to still chat. Only I will see your text, but I will be able to hold on to and receive any questions you may have that can be brought up later during the Q&As. And then during the actual Q&A portion, I will turn chat on for everyone so you can ask your questions directly to Liz and Holly if you would like. And Liz will also be doing a demonstration during the event, so I hope you will all participate. And then let me get into the bios just in case you aren't sure who you're here to see. Holly Lebowitz Rossi is the co-author of Yoga for a Healthy Lower Back. She has worked as a freelance writer for 2 decades, specializing in health, wellness, religion, parenting, and yoga. Her work has appeared in the Boston Globe Sunday Magazine, Newsweek, The Washington Post, Slate, Prevention, Guideposts, and NPR's All Things Considered. She was a founding employee and health and healing editor of BeliefNet.com. She lives in Arlington with her husband and son. And Liz Owen is the co-author of Yoga for a Healthy Lower Back. She has taught yoga since 1990 and is co-author and lead yoga teacher for the 3 NIH-funded studies conducted at Boston University's School of Medicine. Liz has led workshops for people living with depression and anxiety, as well as teacher training immersions for professionals since 2011. She's also taught Yoga for a Healthy Lower Back workshops for 15 years. Liz also lives with her husband in Arlington, Mass. Are both of you ready?
Ready.
Ready.
All right, Holly.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm so grateful to be with you all, and grateful to Amanda and Belmont Books for hosting this event. And also for being such a reassuring and positive presence during these strange times of the coronavirus pandemic. Liz and I had obviously hoped to be together in person, but we're really appreciating and enjoying how Belmont Books is bringing people together using the tools that we can safely use. So our book, The Yoga Effect, a proven program for depression and anxiety, was published just before New Year's 2020. And since then, quite a lot has happened, hasn't it? So the first thing that I want to say is simply that if you have come here this evening because you're feeling unsettled, unsteady, or even overwhelmed, you are not alone. And if you are feeling drawn to yoga because you've heard that it can help you regulate your mood and find emotional balance, you're right. There's a phrase that is used in yoga circles, which is, may it be of benefit. And that is our hope, that our book may be of benefit as an evidence-based yoga program that you can do at home without a yoga teacher in the room to support your mental and emotional well-being. So when I think about the book that we've created and the way that yoga has impacted my own mental health journey, I always come back to the idea of yoga as an embodied practice. So another way to say this is to say that yoga asks us to look inward and to consider, how do I carry myself through this day? How do I carry myself into each moment? And where do I truly live? Liz and I wrote The Yoga Effect in hopes of offering literal tips for how to carry ourselves and how to inhabit our bodies in ways that support emotional health. The book is research-based, and Liz will talk in a moment about her role as co-author of NIH-funded studies on yoga for depression and anxiety that were conducted through Boston University School of Medicine. In our book, we review the research that supports yoga as a trustworthy approach to healing depression and anxiety. And there's a lot of study on this in the areas of neuroscience and psychology, and there's a great need for more research. Before the coronavirus pandemic, 1 in 6 Americans was taking medication for an emotional condition, and more than 14 million Americans have a diagnosis of major depressive disorder. According to the National Institutes of Mental Health, 31% of Americans will experience an anxiety disorder at some point in their lives, and reports from therapists and mental health providers suggest that the emotional challenges that the current moment presents can't possibly be overstated. So again, for anyone here who is struggling with depression, anxiety, chronic stress, or other emotional challenges, we want to say again, you are so far from being alone. And though yoga is not the treatment, it is a trustworthy resource that has been shown to have real measurable benefits for mental health. So I'm going to describe the book a little bit, starting with the idea that we discuss ideas from the yoga philosophical tradition, which dates back to 1000 BCE, to bridge the gap between the science lab and the yoga mat, and offer insights that you can turn to today in your everyday life. And but of course, there is yoga in the book. There are 5 practice chapters, each of which contains a yoga sequence focused on a specific emotional attribute. And those are centering, empowerment, energy, calm, and balance. So the idea is that you can turn to the chapter that helps you meet yourself wherever you are on a given day. And you can learn over time what sorts of movements and breathing exercises will help you either bolster your inner reserves if you're feeling depressed, or calm an overactive mind if you are feeling anxious. Each 10 pose practice in the book was selected by Liz based on the protocol used in the study. And Liz will go over that in a moment to show why the practices all follow a sequence of categories of poses, like a standing pose followed by a backbend. And some poses like sun salutation or inverted cleanser, which is sometimes called legs up the wall, those poses are repeated in each chapter. And so I just wanted to say a word about that, because it always stands out to me how powerful it is to return to the same movement with a different mindset. So doing a sun salutation for empowerment is very different from doing one for calm. But it grounds me and even inspires me to keep practicing the more I recognize that those two emotional experiences can come from taking our bodies through the very same physical movements. Which brings me back to this idea that I mentioned when I started about how do we carry ourselves through each day and into each moment, and where do we truly live? I'm going to read a short passage from the book that reflects on this. This is one of Liz's and my favorite bits in the book. Mm-hmm. It has to do with a reflection on the idea of home, something that may have been on many people's minds over the last 4 months, very specifically. Mm-hmm. So let's see, we start with the idea that in yoga philosophy, each and every person has a birthright, which is a natural state of contentment, peace, and joy. All anyone needs to do to be entitled to this birthright is to be born. Nothing you can do, think, or feel about yourself can take it away. But if you are suffering from depression or anxiety, this might feel hard to accept. You might even turn a self-judgmental eye on yourself and say, "What's wrong with me that I can't experience peace and happiness?" In times of depression, you might not be able to access your birthright, and you may even doubt that you deserve it. In yoga philosophy, emotional challenges are seen to be like blockages that, if opened, can become springboards for personal change and growth. I hope this idea can help you release any defeated, self-deprecating thoughts you may be experiencing. Consider this thought experiment. Imagine that you are standing outside your house in a rainstorm without the key to open your front door. How do you feel? Physically uncomfortable? Wet? Cold? Frustrated? Annoyed with yourself for forgetting your key? You might feel all of those things, not to mention feeling resentful at being locked out of the comforts of home as you peer through a closed window and see an inviting tea kettle, cozy blanket, and beckoning sofa. Within all of those thoughts and feelings, though, here's something you would not likely feel compelled to say to yourself. "Oh, well, if I can't get into my house, I guess I don't live here anymore." In other words, your home is yours, whether or not you can get into it in this moment. So too does your emotional birthright of peace and happiness belong to you, whether or not it feels within reach to you right now. Of course, it bears mentioning that the key to your house is a cut piece of metal that fits neatly into your door's lock. If you have that one key, you have full access to everything that waits for you on the other side of the door. If only emotional wellness were that simple. The truth is, there is no one thing, no master key that will free you from the challenges that come with life as an emotional being. But remember, everything you are doing to improve your mental well-being is part of the healing journey toward clearing the obstructions that hold you back. Each time you take a step toward understanding yourself a bit better, by understanding your brain, mind, and body, you move toward accessing the rich source of peace and contentment that already dwells within you. So now I am thrilled to turn things over to Liz Owen, who is a yoga teacher, research co-author, member of the International Association of Yoga Therapists, and wonderful person.
Holly, thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Hi. Nice to see everybody here today. I'm just going to switch my view so I can see your faces instead of my big face. That's better. Good. Okay. So thank you, Amanda. Thank you to Belmont Books for hosting this event. We're very proud to be here. So, okay, so I'm tasked with explaining the study, which is easy. But before I explain the study, I need to explain a little bit of the science, which is not so easy for me. So if there's scientists in the room, I hope you'll just give me a little slack, okay? Because I'm a yoga teacher, not a scientist. Okay, so our primary investigator is Chris Streeter, MD. She's a psychiatrist at Boston University School of Medicine. She's a research psychiatrist and a clinical psychiatrist. She has always been interested in the role of Eastern mystical practices to help depression and anxiety. The theory behind this study, or the theory basis that produced our studies, is a pretty well accepted theory in the medical community that stress, depression, anxiety, PTSD, chronic pain create an imbalance in the nervous system by inhibiting or depressing the rest and renewal aspect of the parasympathetic nervous system and increasing the fight or flight response of the sympathetic nervous system. So parasympathetic, sympathetic. Parasympathetic is called rest and digest, or rest and befriend, rest and renewal. And sympathetic is fight or flight. In a stressful situation, when you need energy, your body, your brain sends messages to your stress hormones kick in, and you have the energy to go fight the tiger, is kind of where that comes from, right? So when we are in a stressful state, we have our stress hormones are active, increased. Usually after the stressful state is over, the nervous system rebalances itself. In our daily lives, in situations of chronic stress, this doesn't always happen. The stress hormones stay kicked in, and what is decreased is a neurotransmitter that's called GABA. So what is GABA? GABA is a neurotransmitter that transmits messages from your vagal nerve to your brain. It's the main neurotransmitter that does this work. So 80% of what the vagal nerve does, or vagal nerves, because there's a number of them, that connects your thoracic, abdominal, and low intestinal organs, 80% of what these nerves do is take the messages from your internal organs about their state back to the brain. The brain then responds. So if your heart is beating fast from a stressful situation, your brain gets the message that your heart is stressed and needs help from a stress hormone. If your heart is at rest, it sends the message to your brain that all is well, and the heart is restful, the internal organs are restful, and the body comes back into balance. Okay, so the reason that Dr. Streeter was so interested in GABA is because GABA, pharmacologicals are often formulated to raise GABA levels. GABA levels are decreased in depression, anxiety, PTSD, as they are also in epilepsy. Just as an aside, sometimes the same pharmacologicals are used. So she's one of a group of doctors who were very interested in seeing if Eastern practices could raise GABA levels. How are they going to do this? They're going to measure GABA levels, increase, decrease, staying the same, whatever happens, through MRI technology. So they recruited 30 people. I'm just going to tell you about our latest published study, which was published in 2017. We've done 3 studies. The first one was 2011, this one is 2017, and the last one that we completed is not yet published. So they recruited 30 people who are considered diagnosed with major depressive disorder. That means they had a Bdi Index, Beck's Depression Inventory rating of 14 or above. 14 is just about the baseline for depression, maybe a little bit above the baseline for depression. And they considered our study to be what they call a dosing study. So they had a high dose group and a low dose group. The high dose group came to 3 yoga classes each week at BU down in the South End of Boston for an hour and a half and did 4 homeworks. So that's 7 days of yoga a week. The homeworks were half an hour. Just to be clear about this, no one did a half an hour of yoga homework at home. We were lucky if we got 15 minutes out of people. And maybe if I have time, I'll say more about that later. But anyway, so that's the high dose group. The low dose group was 2 classes at BU and 3 homeworks. So that's 5 a week. So the participants had to do an hour-and-a-half MRI as a baseline. So just consider someone who's feeling very anxious, nervous, maybe doesn't like small spaces. An hour-and-a-half in an MRI machine is not so easy. So we lost some people because of that. People couldn't get through that. So they did an hour-and-a-half baseline MRI. Then we did 12 weeks of yoga. During those 12 weeks, every 3 or 4 weeks, maybe it was 3 weeks, I can't quite remember, they would fill out a Bdi Index, which is a self-measurement mood scale. And then their last yoga session was actually at McLean Hospital. Maybe, I'm sure that many of you know McLean Hospital. It's part of the Harvard teaching hospitals here, and it's a psychiatric hospital. So they would go to McLean, they would do an hour-and-a-half MRI, then they would do an hour-and-a-half of yoga, and another hour-and-a-half MRI. And that was their last, so that's a lot. So they were good to get through that. So the study, we had fabulous results on two parts of the study. The Bdi Index, the baseline for depression is about 13 to 14. We started with people that were up to 27. So that's pretty high depression. At the end of the study, the high dose group went down to 6. The low dose group went down to 11. So that was fabulous in and of itself. The Gaba measurements were that at the beginning of the study, all the participants as a cohort, their GABA levels were low. That was to be expected, right? Because that goes along with depression. By the end of the study, their GABA levels were the same levels as what we consider to be a well person. So we were very happy with those results. Those were good results. And we got very good press from it. Time magazine wrote, "It's official, yoga helps depression." Because Dr. Streeter thinks that this was the first time that it was actually measured with a scientific measurement. And that's what the medical community wants, right? You know, we yogis know what yoga does for us. We always feel better after we practice, but it has never been measured. So I'll tell you just a little bit about the yoga sessions, and then we're going to do a really easy practice that everybody can do because it's only breath work. Okay? So the easiest way to, or the theory is that the easiest way to demonstrate the relationship between yoga and the parasympathetic nervous system is through breath. And it's believed that long exhales, even just exhaling, right? The thing that we all hate to hear, oh, just take a deep breath, right? Drives you crazy, right? But that's it. You take an inhale and you exhale long and deep. That's going to help your nervous system. Resonant breathing. So in yoga practice, we do a breath called Ujjayi breath, which is called ocean breath. It creates a vibration in the throat. Theoretically, this group of doctors think that vibration stimulates the vagal nerve as it moves through the back of the throat. That's not been proven, but that's their theory. So we all know in mystical yoga religions, there's chanting. Every religion has chanting. Chanting works with long exhales. So generally, breath is the easiest way to find the connection. And our practice tonight is just going to be all some active breaths and some relaxing breaths. So every class was not the same poses, but the same format. A short seated centering with ocean breath, sun salute, because it wakes us up, right? So for depression, for can't get out of bed in the morning depression, So movement is helpful. Any movement, of course, is helpful for stimulating the body. For anxiety, you know, one of the theories that we work with in yoga practice is sometimes, for example, with depression, we want to bring the energy up. Sometimes in the event of anxiety, we want to meet the mind where it is. So movement is, we think, is helpful for anxiety. So sun salute is lots of movement. It's strength work. It builds confidence. And then comes a couple of standing poses, same thing. So some of you have heard me say this. Mr. Iyengar was famous for saying, how can you walk through the world if you can't stand on your own 2 feet, right? So the standing poses build confidence, help us to stand on our own 2 feet, and they're also grounding. Then back bends. So this, so our whole yoga protocol was based on Iyengar yoga, which I used to be a teacher. I'm not anymore, but I was. So in the Iyengar system, back bends are really important for treating depression. They open the chest, they open the lungs. They allow for free, even, deep breathing. They stretch, they open the liver. And maybe some of you know in Chinese medicine, the liver is associated with anger. So when we open, theoretically, when we open the organic body, we help the organs to function fully instead of holding back. Back bends open the heart. So we can start to learn what's in the heart, right? Without self-judgment, and we'll practice that a little bit with our breath work tonight. So back bends, really important. A transition pose to stretch out the back after back bends, and then a forward bend. So obviously forward bends do the opposite of back bends. They stretch out the spinal muscles. They open up the area around the kidneys. So in Chinese medicine, the kidneys are associated with fear, which goes right along with Western medicine. The adrenals sit right on the kidneys, and right, so the adrenals secrete adrenaline in a fearful situation. So this is very much in line with Western medicine. We stretch out the back body, we open up the shoulders, we release the back of the neck, the upper back, and to release tension. And then we always did an inversion, and our inversion was legs up the wall. This was a beginning yoga sequence. We started a little more ambitiously, and then as the years went by, we let go of headstand, we let go of shoulder stand, we let go of all the challenging poses because it was too hard for the beginners. So some people who had done yoga before liked doing shoulder stand, but everybody started with legs up the wall. And that's to turn everything upside down. The energy of the legs drains. Legs up the wall is considered a resting pose for the heart. Brings energy into the chest. Brings a little bit of what we call chin lock. There's a theory that chin lock might help stimulate the vagal nerve. Not been proven. And then deep relaxation. So then along with the deep relaxation, 20 minutes of a breath that we call coherent breathing, which is simply even inhales and exhales, 5 breaths a minute. So we did this, we have a MP3 file that is Tibetan bells. A high bell is for the inhale, a low bell is for the exhale. So that was also a challenge for folks. You know, somebody who's in a high state of anxiety had a pretty difficult time lying down for 20 minutes breathing. And we worked with that, you know. They'd say, I have to get up. Okay, let's get up. Let's take a walk. And then let's just try to lie down a little bit more, right? So it was a work in progress, and we think it was successful. So the book is short practices, not anything like our hour-and-a-half practices, but meant to elicit the same nervous system responses. Okay, so since I didn't know who was coming tonight, except I knew a few of you, but not everybody, and I wanted to do a little bit of a practice. This is just going to be a breath practices, all right? Does everybody have room to stand? You know, if you don't, you can do this sitting. That's fine. You can either sit or stand. I'm going to stand. I'm going to change my camera to how I teach, and then we'll go at it, okay? I'm very happy to see all these nice, familiar, friendly faces. Thank you all for coming. All right, so our first, can everybody see me okay? And hear me okay? All right, so our first practice is called, we're going to do 2 ha breath practices. So ha breath is a very active breath. In the case of depression, ha breath will bring up energy. In the case of anxiety, so here's where we're meeting the mind where it is when we do ha breath, okay? So the first one is you just simply stand and your palms are open. So if we wanted to get very symbolic about this, we could say you can make your breath an offering. And you draw your hands in to your chest, and as you exhale, you go ha. Okay? So a couple of images that you can work with here. If you're very anxious, or even with depression, ha, release it. Ha, 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 ha. 5 more. Ha, 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 ha. And at the end of the practice, just if you're comfortable closing your eyes, please do. Let your arms hang. And here's the process. Observe. What are the feelings in your body? What are your thoughts? Acknowledge. And of course, in yoga practice, one of our practices is to acknowledge without self-judgment. Hold space for your thoughts, for your emotions. My meditation teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, has a very powerful technique. He says, hold your emotions like a baby. And then offer loving kindness to your emotions. Okay, so thumbs up, thumbs down. How'd that go for everybody? Good. Okay, good. Okay, so our second ha breath, this is not in the Iyengar tradition, this is Kripalu tradition. This is a great practice. It's called breath of joy. So you're going to pretend that you're conducting an orchestra with a 3-part inhale. 1, 2, 3. Ha! Okay? Ha! 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 So bend, knees are bent in the forward bend. Ha! Nice and springy, easy forward bend. Ha! Ha! 3 more. Ha! 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 And then slowly come on up. Same process. Just stand. Close your eyes if you're comfortable. Feel what's happening in your body. I would presume by now that you're feeling some kind of vibration that there's some energy flowing in your body. So that, I hope, is a good feeling. What are your thoughts? What are your emotions? Can you please acknowledge thoughts and emotions, and please hold space for them and offer them loving kindness. Okay, so now we get a little quieter. So, good? How was that? Was that good? Okay, good. All right, so that seems to work even with folks with back issues because the knees are bent. It's a soft forward bend. It's not a difficult movement. I hope it's not difficult. All right, so this is a very interesting breath that I'm just gonna call this a grounding breath. So we'll start like we did before with the ha breath, and you'll inhale and the hands rise. Turn palms down. Now imagine that you're pressing air to earth. Inhale, feeling energy rise up a little bit. Exhale, pressing air to earth. So you can just do this at your own pace and see if you can feel. As you press air to earth, can you feel your feet grounding? I like to imagine that the air is in a big balloon around me, and I'm pressing the air down, and as I'm pressing the air and the balloon down, I feel my body well grounded to earth. And this is bringing in what we call shira in yoga practice, stability. So pressing air down, pressing the balloon, feeling yourself becoming well grounded. Just a few more. Two more. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, you can visualize the balloon spreading down into earth and your body becoming well grounded. Okay. And then same thing after this breath, just take a moment and feel. So the action of the ha breaths now should be kind of coming down into your body, maybe down into your hips, down through your legs, and through your feet into earth. And start to notice your mind, right? Because when we start to do the quieting breaths, obviously the mind, hopefully, is starting to quiet, right? What we do with our breath and body has a huge effect on our minds. Okay, so now at this point, how is that? Good, okay, good, great, everyone. All right, so you'll know, so I've set up my spot here. I'm not sure that everybody has the luxury of having a yoga mat and a couple of blankets around, but if you do have space to lie down, you can lie down. If you do have the luxury of having a mat and blankets, what I did was I put a blanket down for underneath my head and a blanket down for underneath my thighs and my knees. Okay, so I thought we will just lie down and we'll do just about 10 minutes of, we'll do a short deep relaxation, and then we'll do some ujjayi breath, some ocean breath. So I'm going to sit back down. And if you don't have room to lie down, you can certainly just do this in a seated position. That's fine. Just sit up and close your eyes. So whatever position you're in, I'd like you to feel settled. If you're in a chair, have your feet flat on the floor. Everybody can take the shoulders a little bit back. Everybody who's lying down, let your arms and your legs roll apart from your body. So let your limbs go. So just do a little body scan to begin with, letting go through the feet and the legs. Can you feel some heaviness through your legs? And can you feel some heaviness through your hips? So the earthy energy, earth lives in our lower body in yoga philosophy. So especially in the base of the hips. So feel your buttocks evenly grounded, feel your hips relaxed. Imagine the front of your hips like like the surface of a lake that's coming towards stillness. Can you feel the area around your navel? Can it relax? That can be a hard place to feel. Feel breath coming up through your abdomen into diaphragm area, into heart band. So the area of the middle chest. And exhale down from heart band through diaphragm, through abdomen, hips, and earth. So just start to feel your breath as a gentle wave that comes up from earth into your abdomen, your diaphragm, your heart band. Maybe up into the upper chest, but notice if you bring breath up into the upper chest that your eyes and your brain stay quiet. And soft, deep, long exhale. Let go. Chest, diaphragm, abdomen, hips, earth. So the first step before we do ocean breath is I'm going to ask you to start to balance your inhale and your exhale. So the first step of that is noticing the intensity, the length of your inhale, the intensity and the length of your exhale. And this can be very different for different people. So just cultivating a deep conscious breath, breath by breath, start to bring your inhale and your exhale into balance. Now, you can just do that by estimating. If you'd like, you can count. You can count the length of your inhale and you can count the length of your exhale. And let these two parts of the breath come into balance over a number of breaths. So we're not forcing, right? There's no forcing in yoga practice. You're welcoming the breath in, letting the inhale come to its expression, and releasing the exhale and feeling the inhale and the exhale coming towards balance. A few rounds, just at your own pace. And now, take an inhale, and at the top of your inhale, slightly, gently, softly, lovingly contract the back of your throat, just a little bit, so that when you exhale, you feel a vibration at the back of your throat and your breath is elongated. So this is pranayama. Prana is life force and ayama is elongation. Now can you create that same or a similar vibration as you inhale? The exhale can be easier. It sounds like an inner sigh. Can you create a similar sound as you inhale? So the first few rounds of ocean breath, so it's called ocean breath because it sounds like an ocean wave in the distance. So you can imagine you're standing at the ocean, the water is beautiful, it's a warm, sunny day, and the ocean is just far enough that you're just hearing that little whisper of the waves. It's not a crashing wave, it's a soft, gentle wave. The inhale as it comes up onto the shore, and the exhale as the water recedes back into the ocean. Now, before we go to the next step, if you feel tense or if this is difficult for you, take a break, take a normal breath or two, and then try again, because sometimes a break can be extremely helpful. So now what we'll do with our ocean breath is we'll balance the inhale and the exhale. So you did this before, just with a deep conscious breath. Take an ocean breath inhale. Notice the length. And with your ocean breath exhale, start to bring your ocean breath into balance. So balancing the breath equals balancing the nervous system in yoga philosophy, okay? So tonight we're working to balance the nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is activated as you inhale, and the parasympathetic nervous system is activated as you exhale. Soft, deep inhale. So the vibration, the resonance of ocean breath should be something that sounds really nice to you. It should be very soothing. It should be nurturing. It's your heart's lullaby. It's your breath's lullaby to your body. And long, deep exhale. Keep going at your own pace. And of course, as I said before, in yoga practice, we practice non-self-judgment. So please don't beat yourself up if your inhale and your exhale are not yet the same length. This comes over time. So just as you're watching so part of your mind is watching your breath. There's another part of your mind that's standing outside of yourself, looking at you, and just watching you breathe in this way. And let that part of yourself feel how your body responds to this breath, and feel how your thoughts and your emotions respond. One more deep Ujjayi inhale, ocean breath inhale. And one last long ocean breath exhale. And then release your ocean breath. And then before you reawaken your body, we'll do this same practice of observe your body, observe your thoughts, acknowledge, hold space for those emotions, and offer them loving kindness. And very slowly, keeping your eyes soft, gently open your eyes and start to move your fingers and your toes. And when you feel ready, bend your knee. If you're lying down, you'll bend your knees. You'll roll over to your side. Yet stretch however you'd like to stretch. And then you'll come to any comfortable seated position. So to end our breath practice, tonight we'll end as I end every one of my yoga classes, and I ended every class in the study. We bring our hands to heart center. This is Anjali Mudra, the mudra of offering. and I say, the light within me deeply honors the light within you. Namaste. And if you've done yoga before, you can say namaste. Okay. All right. So we wanted to leave time at the end for questions. So Amanda is back. Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Okay, so we'll turn over the spotlight to you again.
So
Let you moderate the questions.
yeah, questions in while you were doing the breath practice, but for everyone who's here, I've opened the chat so you are able to type freely, and both Liz and Holly will be able to see your questions if you have any questions. That was very calming, Liz.
Good. Good.
It's like sitting in my chair, almost falling asleep. It was very soothing.
Yeah, that's good. That's what it should be.
Hey Liz, it's Hillary. How are you?
Good. How are you, Hillary?
I'm good. I have both of the outstanding books.
Oh, excellent.
I love them. When are you and Holly gonna come back to Pineapple Yoga Studio and do an awesome workshop, possibly on the yoga effects or the low back again after things start to calm down? Hopefully there's an end to this crazy pandemic.
So Hillary's talking about Pineapple Yoga in Sarasota.
Correct, yes.
So, you know, I did have a very brief conversation with Claudia. She contacted me asking me if I was interested in coming back sometime this year, and I said yes.
Oh, nice.
We'll see how that goes, and we'll see when things open up there, or open up everywhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The nice thing about going to Sarasota is we could do it outside, which would be fabulous.
Oh, I know. She's offered a lot of classes outside, so it'd be really cool for you and Holly to come and do an awesome workshop, because I was really excited to see this email come through. So thank you so much.
Okay, Holly, you're on. Thank you, Hillary.
You're so welcome. Great to see you again.
Great to see you. Any other questions, anybody? Oh, so this is from Hannah. Congratulations on the studies in your book. Would these practices be helpful for clinical depression, maybe even suicidal personalities? So I would love to say yes, but I don't know is the answer. I mean, I can't imagine that they would hurt. Having said that, in the studies, suicide ideation was not part of the study. So suicide ideation, if anybody checked that off when they were applying for the study, we could not take them in, which was unfortunate. But, and that was NIH. NIH held us back from taking suicidal personalities. So it would be fabulous to do that. Excuse me. And I hope we can do that with our next one. So Mary wrote, did you encounter any precautions for practice? Mary, do you mean, what do you mean when you say that? Do you mean?
Any precautions? I mean, based on the results with the participants, were there any contraindications or things they should avoid?
You know, it was a really varied group of participants, and in all honesty, we were often tailoring the practices for each particular person.
You always do that, Liz. That's the yoga therapy approach.
Yeah, so it was like that. So we took people between 18 and 64 years old, and there were people we had vets who had a lot of injuries. There were a lot of back injuries. There were a lot of injuries and a lot of pre-existing conditions. So this is one reason why Chris Streeter wanted to use the Iyengar yoga teachers, is because they have the training to modify poses and to work with props. And what she told us was set them up for success. So if we knew somebody had a back issue, we backed off, we modified the pose so that they could do it. Like, put your hands on the radiator or put your hands on the chair, right? Or, bend your knees, do this, do this, do this, so that they felt that they were actually having some success in the poses. So there was a lot of that, actually. We had an older guy who could barely move his body. And for the first 3-4 weeks, he was really kind of terrified. And he was exhausted after the sequences. He was exhausted after every class. And finally, we put him at the wall. We had him do all his standing poses against the wall, everything supported with chairs, belts, everything. Everything was out. And he came around, and he walked into class one day and he said, I feel great. I'm not tired. And this is good. Okay. Susan, where were the published, hi, Susan. The studies were published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine. The first one was 2011. The second one was 2017. And yes, the book, the studies already above have the book, are the references. The study is referenced in the book. All the studies. Holly wrote all about the studies. So you'll see that, I think that's in chapter 2. Is that right, Holly?
Chapter 1, I think.
Chapter 1 introduces the studies.
Yes.
Yeah. So Holly, I got to say, took on writing about the studies and writing about the vagus nerve and the polyvagal theory. And she really got it right.
There's a sidebar in chapter, well, let's see. Yes, on pages 13 and 14, for anybody following at home, there's a sidebar that describes the polyvagal theory. And I think we spent more time and energy trying to get that right than almost any other detail.
It was it was a big challenge.
It was very helpful to have Dr. Streeter available to review all of the scientific sections of the book so that we could feel confident that we weren't making any claims that weren't supported by the research.
Yeah. Okay, and then Susan's last question is, were they in a group or individual classes? Theoretically, they were group classes. Having said that, there were usually no more. I think the most we ever had was 4. It was a rolling admissions. So people just came in as they were accepted into the study, and then they were divided up into either evenings or mornings, depending on their schedules, home and work schedules. So sometimes we had 1, sometimes we had 4, mostly we had 2 or 3. Okay, so are you, so from Hannah. Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. I'm curious if Liz or Holly were surprised by anything in working on this publication together. Holly?
You know, I saw that question and thought, one thing, I mean, Liz and I, it's going to sound very hokey to say, but it is very challenging to write a book with another person. And I was not at all surprised, but it is a unique and extremely special fact of both of our books that you wouldn't know that it's hard to write a book with another person. Partnership that we were able to have. And our first book, Yoga for a Healthy Lower Back, came out in 2013, and this came out in 2019. And over all that time, I couldn't be more grateful for the partnership. It is very, very special and unusual in a good way.
Yes, it is. And it's all due to Holly, because Holly is very skilled, not only at writing, but how she deals with people. And I never felt intimidated. I never felt humiliated. I could write something that was the worst thing in the world, and she just made it into something good. So that's why it's a good partnership, right? She's the writer and I'm the yoga teacher, and we don't it works. Okay, I want to get, I love Hannah's question. Are you saying the practice for depression, anxiety are the same? For depression, more activity; for anxiety, meet the mind where it is. So as far as the study and our yoga protocols are concerned, it's the same practice for depression and anxiety, because they're considered so related, right? And someone with, somebody with who has manic depression or can go back and forth. Many people have symptoms of both who are just diagnosed as major depressive. Having said that, in the Iyengar method, there's a big difference in practices that we might offer someone with depression or someone who has anxiety. And that would be tailored to the specific person's symptoms. So, for example, for depression, especially can't get out of bed in the morning depression, I might say to somebody, you can just lie in bed and do deep inhale ocean breath, because inhales are going to stimulate the sympathetic nervous system, give you energy. For somebody with anxiety, I have a choice. I could either meet their mind where it is, or I can ask them to quiet it down using exhales. So it's very, this is where individual yoga therapy comes in. And not everybody with depression likes forward bends, for example, because they can be too claustrophobic. Not everybody with depression likes to close their eyes. Not everybody with anxiety can close their eyes, right? So there's all kinds of things for us to deal with. Within the study, the yoga teachers did not know what someone was diagnosed with. I know that we had people with PTSD. I know that we knew pain, we knew chronic pain, but we didn't know depression, anxiety, PTSD. And that was purposeful, right? So that the yoga teachers were teaching the same thing to all the participants in the study. And we see what happens with that. Oh, this is my sister. Let me read Andrea. Thank you, Andrea. Beautiful practice. Thank you, Liz and Holly and Belmont Books. Okay, this is my sister from Jan Seward. Hi, Liz. I can think of several friends who would have enjoyed being here. Is the recording going to be available online?
I can answer that. Yes, it will. Belmont Books records all of our virtual events, so we do have a YouTube channel. It's just Belmont Books. Usually the recordings go up within a day to 48 hours afterwards. I can make sure that both Liz and Holly get a link to the event so they can send it along. But yes, it will be available online. Belmont Books on YouTube, super easy to find, and it will be there.
Nice. Thank you for doing that, Amanda.
Of course. I know sometimes things come up and not everyone can make it.
Yep.
Any more questions? These have all been really great.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I'm going to put a link to the book once more in the chat. I put it at the beginning, but if you were focusing on Holly and Liz, so you can find The Yoga Effect to buy at our website, and the direct link is in the chat.
Nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming. I'm just reading all the messages that are saying thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you
Holly.
both.
Liz. Thank you, Holly.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, Liz.
Thank you, Hillary.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Awesome workshop.
Good. Bye, Jen. Bye, Susan. Bye, Jen. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Liz. I'm glad we were able to work something out instead of an in-store event. I think it worked out really well.
Yeah. Great.